back on the continent. Zimbabwe's ambassador to Mozambique, retired Maj-Gen Douglas Nyikayaramba, has died of COVID-19 complications. Nyikayaramba was on leave when he died in Harare, becoming the fourth military general to lead the 2017 putsch against the late President Robert Mugabe to succumb to the virus. Nyikayaramba is the fourth military general, as I mentioned, who was part of that group. Presidency spokesperson George Charamba wrote on Twitter earlier on, expressing his surprise, saying that he's gutted to learn of the death, saying yet another diplomat, commander, war veteran and patriot has fallen. Our correspondent in Harare, Zimbabwe, Ephert Musekiwa, joins us now. Ephert, so let's just first start with the death. How has this news been received of Zimbabwe's ambassador to Mozambique, Maj-Gen Douglas Nyikayaramba?
Well, it is another shocking news that the Zimbabweans received this morning. You remember that, like you did indicate earlier on, he was part of the high-ranking military officials that were very influential in the rise of the current president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, when he took over from Mugabe in November 2017. He was also one military figure who was very vocal in his stance or in his not supporting what the opposition stood for. I think in 2008, he did indicate that he was not going to salute if Maj-Gen Nyikayaramba rose to the highest office. He was not going to salute him because he didn't believe in what Maj-Gen Nyikayaramba stood for. So he was a very vocal and anti-opposition military figure, whom I'm sure in the opposition circles, they didn't really like him.
And just in terms of, I mentioned earlier on that spokesperson of the presidency mentioned what a surprise it was, and that obviously this is another diplomat, he said, another soldier. So we also mentioned, as you said, the fourth person who was part of the generals who asked the former President Robert Mugabe. But what about his political activity? Beyond being ambassador, was he still involved?
Well, when President Mnangagwa came into office, he actually retired a number of generals. You remember the late former Foreign Affairs Minister was another general that he retired. Anselm Sanyatwe, who is now ambassador in Tanzania, was also retired. So they'd just been retired, all of them, from the military and put or given civilian roles. So they just started their civilian or political life. We do not know much. Remember, an ambassador does not live in the country. He had not made any pronouncement, or he had not done any active political activities in the country, because he had been assigned to Mozambique, and he was actually operating in Mozambique and not in Zimbabwe.
Right, in other news, Ephert, we've heard that China is extending a donation of 200,000 Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine doses to Zimbabwe. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, we did get an update this evening from the information minister during the post-cabinet briefing, which is the first cabinet meeting that was held today, and she did indicate that China had availed or had donated 200,000 of its vaccines, commonly known as... Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead, Ephert. We are listening to you.
Okay, sure. 200,000 doses of its Sinopharm vaccine, which is expected in the country next week on the 15th of February. That's the first batch will be arriving. Then the second batch will arrive the first week of March. The minister also did indicate that this vaccine will be given primarily to healthcare workers and other frontline workers on a voluntary basis. Only those who want to be vaccinated will be vaccinated. And she did indicate that it had actually received a high efficacy endorsement from the World Health Organization, which she said was between 76 to 86% efficacy, and that the government is also looking at acquiring other vaccines from other places like Russia and India. So saying that the rollout will start as soon as the Chinese vaccine arrives in the country.
And Ephert, just to be sure, there is a donation, but there's also a batch that was purchased. Is that correct?
Well, they haven't purchased any vaccines yet. What they did indicate is that they've set aside $100 million for the procurement of vaccines. They've said they have not settled down on which vaccine they want to acquire, saying that their decision will be scientific based and they are not going to succumb to any form of pressure or any form of coercion. So they haven't settled on which vaccine to acquire using their own resources. What they've actually indicated is only the donation that's coming from China.